Hi, Martin here. Today I want to show you how to relocate your spring perches on this particular axle is a 9 1/4 Chrysler rear end, and came out of a 2000 Dodge Durango. And what I am doing here is modifying it to fit into a '01 Dodge Dakota. And one thing about the Dodge and the Durangos, they're not exactly all the same. They look like it from the front, which they are, but when it comes to the back end, there are some differences, and axles don't swap from one vehicle to the other because the spring perches are literally 1 inch difference overall from one side to the other. So to make it work, I'm going to show you how I'm going to remove these spring perches and save them. And all we got to do is relocate them 1/2 inch inward to make it all work. And perhaps you got your axle and you want to do an axle flip. Right now you got the axle over the springs, and maybe you want to go under the springs to give it a 5.5 inch lift, or like in my case, I'm going to do it the other way around and have the axle over the springs, and we're going to drop it 5.5 inches. And so in doing that, I'll show you how to remove these perches, and we'll get them welded on there, and then the next step would be putting this axle into that Dakota. Alright, well, let's get started. Now, one of the first things I did is took a 5/8 drill bit, which fits this hole perfectly, and then dimpled the axle shaft right there, just enough to mark the very center of where it is now. So now I know what line to be on, and this axis as well, because I want to keep that part of it the same, other than we're going to move it over approximately 1/2 of an inch. So at this point now it's safe to cut the perch off of here. I'm going to try just grinding some of this away to see if it's possible to save these perches. Starting to go. I don't know if you can see that or not. This side here, I barely cut into the tube at all. Over here, I did a little bit, especially right in there. Maybe if I would have just spent a little bit more time, I could have done a better job of getting these off of there. But these are definitely, I mean, I would say they're reusable. I think I'm just going to take my welder, do a quick pass on this, and grind that right back down. I might do that over here as well, but just right there. Okay, once realizing that I could cut these perches off, you know, using an angle grinder, and you just got to be really careful. The first one I took to it with my plasma cutter, and you can't get that plasma cutter to lay down along this edge close enough and you know, cut it off without also cutting into the tube. So do this with an angle grinder. Using a cutoff wheel is probably the best way to go, and you can save these. Well, since I destroyed one, I needed another. And since I'm doing a disc brake conversion on this axle, the perches are actually different. And as you can see, I mean, this looks like a normal perch. Nothing fancy about it. Now, I went down to pick apart, cut off a couple axle tubes. And when you look at this perch, you'll notice it's got this little bracket right there. And what that is for the brake lines, because on the disc brake axles, they have that there to secure the brake line. And there's one on each side, so there isn't like a right and a left perch. They just put one on each side, but you only need one. Now, normally I would just weld a tab onto this one and call it good and drill a hole in it, because that's all you'd need to do. But since I ruined the one, went down there and got me a pair of these. I'm going to go ahead and cut these perches off of here, and now I don't actually have to worry about being careful cutting the tube, because I don't care what happens to this tube, right? And I'm just going to go ahead and save these flanges for next time if I ever want to do another disc brake conversion. Alright, let's get cutting. Now, after cutting the tube apart with my plasma cutter, what I got left here is just a small section of tube left there on the perch. Then I use the flap disc to grind down to the point of where it was welded on to the perch. And with a few hits, it comes right off. And they turned out really nice. Okay, after getting them removed from those axle tubes, went ahead and just cleaned them up a little bit, and they came off really nice. I mean, just perfect here. Great way to reuse some material here. And let me tell you, if you wanted to just buy a set of perches, who I'd go to is Rough Stuff. They have a set made for this axle tube, 3.5-inch diameter, and I don't think anybody else makes them for a 3.5-inch tube. And theirs is specific for axle over spring. And I think it's because they design theirs, if it's an axle under the spring, they design them longer so they have less axle wrap. Because you'll see with a an axle that is under the spring, you tend to get a little bit more wheel hop than you will the other way around, because there's less axle wrap. So yeah, but I mean, I would use their perches under or over spring. I don't think it would matter. But that's a great way to go. You don't have to go through all the work I did. They've definitely got the best perches when it comes around to, you know, doing some aftermarket stuff or modifying. All right, well, I got this all cleaned up. Let's go ahead and get this on here. All right, now with the perch completely removed and sanded down, take a piece of angle iron, lay it up here, and there's the dimple that I made earlier right there, that located the very center of the original perch. And since we're not changing the angle of the perch, it's going to stay the same. I'm going to go halfway in between that dimple, scribe a line in here. Alright, we've got our line. So that's our center line right here. But we're only going to come out about 1/2 inch. I mean, technically, I could have probably eyeballed that and got it almost perfect. Okay, I got the dial caliper here, as you can see, set at 1/2 inch. And that's how much we're going to move it in from the dimple that I made earlier to right here. I already made some scratch marks there. I doubt you can see them. You know, I just doubt the camera can pick it up. But what I'm doing is just pivoting on that dimple there, and then scratching across here. And then you should, I'm not sure if you can see that line I laid across there too. So we got a mark right there. That's my very center. Then on that 1/2 inch mark, use a center punch here. Now, the dial caliper will sit in there nicely. Now this second mark I'm making is half the width of the spring perch, so I can see the edge of it. And I can scribe a good line right there. I can clearly see it. Alright, right there. Okay, I can just barely see the edge of my line right here. It looks like I'm right over top of that mark that I made earlier with the center punch. Now I got to worry about is the axis here. I'm going to say right there. Alright, I'm going to weld it in place. After placing a couple tacks, one on each side of that perch, I go ahead and weld it in solid. Kind of doing this in force. Going from that tack weld down and then doing that from one side to the other, back and forth. You'll also notice that I put a welding blanket over my disc brakes. After putting so much work into painting those, I didn't want any welder splatter on any of that. Alright, after shooting a little bit of paint on it, here's the end result. Alright, I think that turned out really nice. I'm so excited because this weekend I'm going to get this axle put into my Dakota. It's going to be quite a change. I mean, not only 392 gears and a Trak-Lok, but dropping it 5.5 in the back. You know, then of course I'm going to drop the front end as well to level it off. I think I got to go 3 inches in the front. So, like I'm saying, this turned out really cool. And it's been kind of a long project for me. And hope you guys enjoyed it and found it helpful and informative. And if you did, sure appreciate the thumbs up. That helps out the channel immensely. And if you never subscribed to me before, please hit that subscribe button right down there and a little bell symbol right next to it. And that way you get notified the next time I upload a video. And I'm also an Amazon affiliate, where in the description down below you'll find tools and products that we used in the video. And you can do all your Amazon shopping through one of those links, and the channel earns a small commission. I appreciate that as well. I want to thank you again for watching, and we will see you on the next one.